Hi readers, I'm going to show you how to build your reader's notebook without the printouts that are talked about in the video. I went ahead and wrote my name on it and put reader's notebook so I could stay organized between my reader's notebook, my writer's notebook, and my social studies notebook. So please put reader's notebook and go ahead and put your name on it in case you have any other siblings in the house, or in case you come back face to face, in case this ends up misplaced, we know who it belongs to. The first 4 pages of your reader's notebook are going to be your table of contents, and that's going to be front, back of the page. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Open it up to the very first page, and I'm going to label this at the top Table of Contents. Okay? So I'm going to go to the back of this first page, and I'm going to label that Table of Contents. Our second page in our reader's notebook is also going to be labeled Table of Contents. And one more time on the back of this page. So the back, make sure you're taking one page at a time. On the back of that, Table of Contents. All right. Now we're going to divide our reader's notebook up into 4 sections, just like she talked about in the video. The first section she talked about, was the table of contents. The second thing is going to be the reading list. Now that our table of contents is complete, let's number some of our pages. So right after table of contents, we're going to number our first page as 1. The front of all the pages are always going to be odd numbers, and the backs of the pages will be even. So the back of page 1 is 2. The front of the next page will be 3. 3 is an odd number. The back of 3 will be 4. The front of the next page will be 5. The back of 5 will be 6. The front of the next page will be 7. The back of 7 will be 8. The front of the next page will be 9. The back of 9 will be 10. The front of the next page will be 11. The back of 11 will be 12. The front of the next page will be 13. And the back of 13, we're going to eventually number that 14, but I'm going to not do that right this instant. I'm just going to stop at 13 for right now. Now I'm going to go back to the front where I have page 1. And this is going to be the cover page for our section, My Reading List. If you have a printout, or if you're able to print it out, that's fine. You can still title the page My Reading List, just like we are. Now I'm going to use marker just to see how dark it's going to be through the paper or if it bleeds through, but I recommend you use colored pencil or crayon. So I'm going to write the word my and check the back to see. It didn't bleed through, but it's still really dark. So I think I might not use marker again unless I'm going to glue something to the back of that page. But I'm going to keep going with marker since I started with it. My reading list. All right, and next we're going to set up our page to make it look like the printout of my reading list. And this is where you're going to keep track of what you have been reading from start to finish. So let's get ready to set up the actual My Reading List section. So when it's time for you to add one, you'll count down 1, 2, 3, 4, and that line you'll trace all the way across again. Just like that. Now I want us to go ahead and tab this section. Your tabs can be done in several ways. You could use 4 different color Post-its. I had my different colors up here just a minute ago, but they've disappeared. Okay, so 4 different color Post-its. Or you can use, if you don't have 4 different color Post-its, you can use your construction papers. You should have gotten some construction paper in your school supplies. Choose 4 colors, and you can cut small strips. They don't have to be the size of a Post-it. They can be a little bit smaller than a Post-it. You can cut 4 pieces of your construction paper, different colors, to make your tabs. Paper. You can cut pieces of your manila paper. Again, does not have to be the size of this Post-it. It can be a little bit smaller than that. You can cut out 4 of those and then color them 4 different colors, and it would still work the same way, okay? I don't care how you make your tabs, just as long as they're 4 different colors. So for this one, I'm going to choose my green Post-it because my other Post-its have disappeared. And I'm going to use packing tape. I know she listed packing tape in the instructions, and this is what it looks like, but you don't have to have packing tape. You can have Scotch tape, just some tape that you can see through, okay? So I'm going to put my tab close. I'm going to fold it over. I'm going to fold it over to where it's still sticking up from the top of the page, but just a little bit. I'm going to take my packing tape, tear some off, and tape this down. So that way the tab is stronger and stays put and doesn't fall off. And if you need help with this, ask your parents if they can give you. I'm going to need a little bit more. Just a little bit to make sure that edge is taped down good enough on the paper. All right, now I have my tab taped. Okay, so let's go now to after page 13. So I'm going to leave the back of 13 should be what? An even number, right? And that next number is 14. So I'm going to leave 14 blank. This should be an odd number, and the next number is 15. Okay, everybody there? Okay, so on page 2, you are going to count down 4 lines from the top. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I did a little mark so I could keep track. On that 4th line, I'm going to trace it all the way across. Sorry, my video froze. And when I mean all the way across, I mean all the way across. We're going to use both pages as like a chart, as one big chart. So all the way across. All right, so going back to on page 2, all right, here's what the chart looks like. And if you're able to print it out, what I would have you do is glue it in sideways so that you can fold it over just like so. And that way you're not having to worry about trimming it to fit to the same size as the page on your reader's notebook, but you could just fold it out and write on it and then fold it back in whenever you need to close up your reader's notebook. But for those of you that don't have access to a printer, that's fine. You can do it just like I am. And if you have the printout, you could always glue it in or tape it in. But on the left-hand side on page 2, your first line, I'd like you to write the word title. Underneath that, I'd like you to write the word author. And then I want you to write the question, how did you choose this book? Sorry, my video keeps freezing. Okay? Now on your right-hand page, or page 3, I want you to go ahead and fold that page in half. And you'll fold it in half a second time. Now what this is going to do is give you 4 columns on page 3. Now each of those columns is a different thing on our chart. Now you can trace the folds all the way down to the bottom of the page. So you create your 4 different columns. Your first column, you're going to title that star rating. And in the video, you're going to see me mess up real quick and I have to use some whiteout. But you'll title that star rating. Now, basically what that means is you're kind of giving it a rating based on the number of stars that you think it deserves. So on the handout, which you'll see on the screen in a minute, you'll see the most number of stars you could give them is going to be 5. And the least number of stars that you could give them would be 1. Basically, what that means is that if you give it a 1, it means that you really didn't like the book. Maybe you thought the book was terrible, but if you gave it a 5, you thought it was so awesome and you couldn't put it down. Hopefully you've had books like that. I know I have. If you have the printout, you would just shade in the stars. If you are doing this by hand like I am, then you could wait to draw the stars until you finish reading the book. And so again, 1 is you really didn't like it, and then 5 would be you absolutely loved it. Your second column is going to be genre. You're going to write down whether or not it's realistic fiction, fantasy, mystery, informational. The different genres that we talk about, you're going to identify the genre and you're going to write it in that column. Your third column is going to be the date that you started the book. And your last column is going to be the date that you finished the book. Now, on your handout, if you don't finish the book, that means that you abandoned the book. And on the handout, if you're able to print it out, it says to put an A in the genre column if you abandon the book. That's fine, you can do that, but I also want to see an A in the the date finished column. I want to see an A there as well, because I still need you to try to identify the genre. So if you just choose to put it in the end column, since you're not going to put an end date really, that's fine. You can put the A there and not put it in the genre column. If you do put it in the genre column, I still want to see it in your end date or date finished column as well. Now, when it's time to fill out, when you actually start reading a book, you're going to write the title of the book, the author of the book, and then the how did you choose this book. We've given you 2 lines, but you could also write all the way across if you need to. And that would mean that you're writing across columns, and that's fine. Or if you have some whiteout, you could erase the space for those columns. So I'm going to count down 4 lines from the last line to set myself up for the book that I'm going to actually be reading. And I'm going to draw a line all the way across. So I counted down 4 lines again, and I'm drawing a line all the way across to set up my chart for my next book. And you'll repeat that, counting down 4 lines for every book that you read. So every book that you're reading should be listed in the My Reading list, and you're counting down those 4 spaces, so that way you have enough room for everything. Now we're going to work on making the tab for this section. I'm going to use Post-its. I had 4 different colors of Post-its, and I have misplaced the other 3 colors. Or if you don't have Post-its, you can use construction paper. You can choose to use 4 different color pieces of construction paper, whatever colors you choose. They just need to be different colors, okay? If you don't have 4 pieces of construction paper, but maybe in your school supplies you bought manila paper, you can use manila paper and then just color them, like cut it into pieces and color it 4 different colors. So if you use construction paper, you just cut off little pieces to make your own tabs from each color. Or using the manila paper, you cut off your 4 tabs. You can see me kind of messing with the Post-it here. My video kept freezing, so I'm having to re-record the narration. But you can, if you have a Post-it that you want to try to cut like use as a stencil, you can, but you can cut 4 different pieces on the manila paper and color them 4 different colors, just as long as it's 4 different colors. Now I'm going to take my green Post-it and I'm going to make my tab. So I took off my 1 green Post-it, and in the video for setting up your reader's notebook, she mentioned packing tape. You can use Scotch tape, or if you have packing tape, you can use it, and you'll see it here on the screen. Again, my video kept freezing as I was recording, and it jumped around, so I'm having to re-record the narration. But that's what packing tape looks like. If you don't have that, you can use Scotch tape, just as long as you can see through and see the color of your tab with whatever tape you're using. So I'm going to position my Post-it to where it's very close to the center of my reader's notebook. And the reason why is that I'm going to change the distance from the middle for each one so you can see all the different colors. Now I'm going to turn the page over to page 2, and I'm going to fold my Post-it down over on page 2. I want a little bit of the tab to kind of still be poking up from the reader's notebook. I don't want it exactly even with the reader's notebook. So you can see that tab is sticking up just a little bit from the reader's notebook. Now I'm going to take a piece of my packing tape, and I'm going to tape the tab down. You can see it was giving me trouble there. And you don't want your pieces of packing tape too big, otherwise it'll be difficult to handle. And you'll see later on in this video that that was an issue for me with making another tab. So I used 2 pieces of packing tape for this tab. And the reason why I'm having you tape it is so it stays put. Otherwise, if you try to glue it down, sometimes the glue doesn't last. if I just put a post-it there, I might lose the post-it, but if I'm taping it down, it's an extra added piece of security for the tab to stay there. And also the tape makes that tab just a little bit stronger, so it's not going to fray and tear and rip as time goes by throughout the year. So there's my tab. And now I'm flipping to the back of, or the end of the section for the My Reading List. Each one of those pages is going to be designated for a My Reading List page. And I'm going to start to number my other pages. So the back of 13 is going to be 14. And the front of the next page is going to be 15. And I'm going to leave 14 blank. I'm not going to do anything with 14 for right now. So 15 is going to be the cover page for our next section.